For 730 days, Drew Scott lived a double life. While the cameras were rolling on the set of Property Brothers, he was smiling through a private nightmare that he kept hidden from the world. Today, the secret is out, and the truth behind this 2-year battle is more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. When you think of Drew Scott, you immediately picture the relentless energy, the perfectly tailored suits, and the multi-million-dollar real estate empire he built alongside his twin brother, Jonathan. For over a decade, millions of viewers have tuned in to watch them turn dilapidated properties into absolute dream homes for growing families. Drew is the ultimate hype man. He is the guy who sells the dream, the guy who walks into an empty, broken-down living room and convinces a young couple that this is the exact spot where their future children will take their first steps. But imagine the sheer cognitive dissonance of selling that exact dream day after day, while secretly knowing that your own dream of starting a family is slowly slipping through your fingers. This is the stark contrast of reality that Drew and his wife Linda Phan navigated during an agonizing 24-month period. They were the architects of family homes, yet they found themselves entirely powerless to build a family of their own. To truly understand the gravity of this situation, you have to rewind to the moment when Drew and Linda decided they were finally ready to expand their family. They had just moved to Los Angeles, pouring their hearts into designing their forever home. Drew even publicly stated he was ready to give up his cherished craft room to turn it into a nursery. They had a checklist. They were optimizing their sleep, adjusting their diets, and doing everything by the book, assuming that, much like a meticulously planned home renovation, inputting the right effort would naturally yield the right result. But human biology does not operate on a production schedule. When the pandemic hit, they thought the sudden pause in their frantic global travel schedule would provide the perfect environment to conceive. Instead, it marked the beginning of a medical gauntlet that would test their marriage, their mental health, and their fundamental understanding of their own bodies. The initial confusion was perhaps the most isolating part of their journey. Drew has openly spoken about the profound lack of education surrounding fertility, noting how lost they felt when month after month yielded negative pregnancy tests. They were doing everything right, yet facing a wall of silence from the universe. This wasn't just a matter of poor timing. It was a biological roadblock that required them to pivot from blind hope to clinical intervention. They sought the help of a reproductive endocrinologist, which opened a terrifying new chapter of diagnostic testing. The real turning point, and the primary culprit behind their unexplained infertility, was a diagnosis that completely derailed their expectations. Linda was suffering from Graves' disease. Graves' disease is an autoimmune disorder that causes hyperthyroidism, meaning the immune system aggressively attacks the thyroid gland, forcing it to overproduce hormones. From a fertility standpoint, this is an absolute disaster. The thyroid is essentially the master conductor of the body's metabolic and reproductive symphony. When it goes into overdrive, it disrupts ovulation, triggers severe anxiety, causes rapid heart rates, and fundamentally creates an internal environment that is intensely hostile to conception and early pregnancy. Linda was not just struggling to get pregnant, her own immune system was locked in a civil war. Understanding this requires a deep dive into the mechanics of reproductive endocrinology. You cannot simply introduce an embryo into a body that is actively attacking its own endocrine system. The physiological foundation has to be stabilized first. This meant that before they could even seriously pursue advanced fertility treatments, they had to medically manage an autoimmune condition that is notoriously stubborn and unpredictable. Once Linda's thyroid levels were somewhat stabilized, the couple entered the grueling world of intrauterine insemination, commonly known as IUI. On paper, IUI seems like a logical, low-invasive first step. It involves closely monitoring the ovarian cycle and perfectly timing the placement of sperm to drastically increase the chances of fertilization. But the reality of IUI is a highly medicalized, emotionally exhausting waiting game. You are suddenly living your life in strict 2-week intervals. 2 weeks of hormone tracking, followed by the procedure, and then the infamous 2-week wait to see if it worked. Drew and Linda went through this cycle, experiencing the unique psychological torture of building up an immense amount of hope, only to have it shattered by a single line on a test. When IUI failed, the stakes were raised exponentially. They had to transition to in vitro fertilization, or IVF. IVF is not just a medical procedure. It is a total hostile takeover of a woman's body and a couple's daily life. Linda described this period as a time warp, a literal Groundhog Day of endless, repetitive trauma. The IVF protocol requires intense ovarian stimulation. Drew, the man used to holding a sledgehammer on demolition days, was suddenly tasked with carefully mixing vials of synthetic follicle-stimulating hormones and administering daily subcutaneous injections into his wife's stomach. These medications are designed to force the ovaries to produce multiple eggs at once, leading to severe bloating, mood swings, and profound physical discomfort. Imagine Linda, already battling the systemic inflammation of Graves' disease, now being pumped full of synthetic hormones that trick her body into hyperovulation. The psychological toll of this specific phase cannot be overstated. Every single morning began with blood work and transvaginal ultrasounds to measure follicle growth. They were chasing millimeters. If the follicles grew too fast, the eggs might be immature. If they grew too slow, the cycle might be canceled. And all the while, the clock was ticking. After the invasive egg retrieval surgery, they faced the agonizing embryological attrition rate. Not every egg fertilizes. Not every fertilized egg becomes a blastocyst. Not every blastocyst is genetically normal. The sheer drop-off rate is brutal, and for a couple desperately wanting a child, every phone call from the embryologist feels like a life-or-death verdict. But here is where the story reaches its most intense contrast. While Linda was enduring this invisible physical trauma, Drew had to maintain his television persona. The Property Brothers franchise is a massive, multi-million-dollar machine that employs hundreds of people and relies entirely on Drew's infectious, unshakable optimism. He could not just pause production. He had to step onto active construction sites, look directly into the lens of the camera, and project pure, unadulterated joy. He was quite literally living a double life. In between takes, he was retreating to his trailer to check in with fertility clinics, review Linda's blood panels, and manage his own creeping depression. Then, the director would call action, and Drew would snap back into the charismatic host, enthusiastically congratulating other couples on their beautiful, expanding families. The emotional whiplash of this daily routine is staggering. It requires a level of psychological compartmentalization that borders on the extreme. He was smiling through a private nightmare, absorbing the grief of their fertility failures while actively cheerleading the domestic success of total strangers. This parasitic relationship with public expectation forces us to reevaluate how we consume celebrity culture. We demand absolute authenticity from our entertainers, yet we strictly police the types of narratives they are allowed to share. Had Drew broken down on set? Had he allowed the dark reality of their IVF struggles to bleed into the polished veneer of HGTV? It would have shattered the escapist fantasy that the network provides. Therefore, the secret had to remain buried until they could guarantee a happy ending. The burden of carrying that secret, of protecting the audience from their pain, added an immeasurable weight to an already crushing experience. They leaned heavily into a private support system, discovering a shadow community of other couples silently fighting the exact same battle. Linda later expressed immense gratitude for this hidden network, wishing she had known earlier about the sheer volume of people quietly navigating the brutal landscape of assisted reproductive technology. Finally, after 2 excruciating years of injections, negative tests, autoimmune complications, and silent tears, the dynamic shifted. During a routine day, isolated in their attic during the height of the pandemic, they received a phone call from their doctor. Linda initially braced for bad news, assuming there was a problem with the foundation of their house or another failed medical test. Instead, the voice on the other end delivered the words they had spent over 700 days agonizing over. They were pregnant. The IVF transfer had worked. But anyone who has survived infertility knows that a positive pregnancy test is not the end of the anxiety. It is merely the transfer of anxiety to a new set of variables. Linda admitted that she spent almost the entirety of her pregnancy playing emotional catch-up. Every single time she reached a new milestone, she felt a lingering sense of disbelief, a trauma response ingrained from years of expecting the absolute worst outcome. She could not simply enjoy the pregnancy. She was constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. The climax of their 2-year battle culminated in a labor and delivery experience that practically mirrored the grueling nature of their fertility journey. This was not a quick, cinematic birth. Linda labored for an agonizing 44 hours. For nearly 2 entire days, she endured the relentless, crashing waves of contractions, ultimately requiring an epidural to manage the escalating pain. When natural progression stalled, the medical team had to intervene, resulting in a cesarean section. After traversing the valley of autoimmune disease, endless fertility injections, psychological compartmentalization, and nearly 2 days of intense physical labor, Parker James Scott was finally brought into the world. He arrived on May 12, 2022, which coincidentally and beautifully fell on Drew and Linda's 4th wedding anniversary. Drew would later joke that Parker efficiently stole the show, permanently hijacking their anniversary celebrations for the rest of their lives. The arrival of their son, and later their daughter Piper Ray in May of 2024, did not erase the 2 years of suffering, but it provided a profound retroactive context to their pain. The contrast of reality they lived through, the polished HGTV smiles masking the grueling, clinical reality of IVF, serves as a powerful testament to human resilience. Drew and Linda's decision to eventually pull back the curtain and expose their secret battle has fundamentally shifted how their audience views them. They are no longer just the untouchable architects of dream homes. They are a deeply relatable couple who had to fight, bleed, and cry for the family they so desperately wanted. Understanding the mechanics of what Drew and Linda went through forces us to look closer at the silent battles happening all around us. If someone with infinite resources and a perfectly curated public life can spend 2 years trapped in a medical and emotional purgatory, it highlights the universal, indiscriminate nature of infertility. It is a biological lottery that cares nothing for your wealth, your television ratings, or your carefully mapped-out life plans. But their story also bridges into another fascinating reality about how high-profile individuals manipulate their environments to conceal massive secrets. How exactly do celebrities hide massive life changes from a rabid press and a hyper-observant fan base for months on end? The tactics they use to obscure the truth involve advanced digital misdirection and airtight non-disclosure agreements that are almost as complex as the medical procedures themselves. But that level of extreme celebrity concealment is a completely different rabbit hole, one that reveals the dark underbelly of public relations and media manipulation.